from WSLN, the Weathered Soul Liberty Network, based in Gilroy, California, the garlic capital of the world. We give you the Weathered Soul podcast with DJ Dougie and Bruce, aka the Weathered Soul. Stay with us for the next hour for intriguing conversation about our community, Gilroy, the South Bay, the national scene, and even stuff around the world. So give us a little time and we will entertain you. Hey, you got Bruce, aka the Weathered Soul here, and DJ Dougie here on the Weathered Soul podcast, the best podcast you've never seen in your life or you never heard of. Here we are here on a Thursday night. Dougie, take over the show real quick. I got to do some technical stuff in the background, and I'll be right back.
All right. Okay. Hey, so tonight we've got a good show lined up. Well, we're going to start out with some fun stuff and move on. But we were kind of going to go back to something that we said we weren't going to go back to. So I'm going to call it something.
We lied. We lied. We lied. A couple weeks
something
ago.
Dot two.
Well, a couple weeks ago, I said that we were done with. Let me see. What was my exact quote? We were done with the pandemic, and we were done with talking about COVID and lockdowns and everything. And Dougie said, "Yeah, sure," like he always does. In fact, there is Dougie right there. That is the best co-host in all of podcasting right there. Say hi, Dougie.
Hi, Dougie.
But like I said, there's all kinds of things that are happening. We got a full stack today. We're going to talk about the pandemic. We're going to talk about the defunding the police or funding the police. We're going to talk about this progressive girl that apparently she floored me about a month ago on Twitter, because I get my leads for my news from Twitter. But for some reason I was on Twitter the other day, probably a month ago or so. And I always look for progressive voices and voices from the left to kind of steer me to some situations that I look for. And Michelle Tandler popped up out of nowhere. I had no idea where she popped up from, but she had a great Twitter thread going on. I want to share it with you guys. It's kind of old. It's back in December, but I go to her Twitter a lot just to look at it. And she is just really insightful for a progressive who lives in San Francisco. She's got a lot of concerns about what's going on in her community, and we just want to share some situations that she's commenting on, and I just really appreciate. I enjoy her Twitter follow. So other than that, we got some stuff that's going on. We're going to do the Sublime headline tonight. We're going to talk about the bullet train. We're all going to talk about, like I said, we're going to talk about COVID and stuff. But hey, this weekend was wild.
What did you say?
Yeah, exactly. What about it, dude? We got together again for the first time, and wow, seems like since Christmas, man.
Christmas time, yeah.
Yeah. We had a little. We had a little Super Bowl party. Oh my God! There he goes. He's got
trying to adjust my illumination here a little bit, but I just can't seem to get the knob down. How's that?
But we got to watch the Super Bowl, and it was nice having Dougie and Ab over, his lovely wife Abby, and it was great. I mean, we hadn't done anything.
We have to call this year's the Stupid Bowl, but that's okay.
It was the Stupid Bowl for sure, because I had no dog in the fight other than my numbers, who didn't come up again. I am now 0-40 in football polls. I have never won a football poll in my life. So for the city of Cincinnati, where the Bengals are from, I apologize to you guys profusely, because the fact of the matter is that I was the reason why the Bengals lost the Super Bowl. I really was, because I have never won. Not one quarter, not one dime, not a shared square or anything like that. I've never won a football poll in my life.
Do you think it's fixed?
I don't know. All I know is that all I needed was in that last 2 minutes for the Bengals to do a quick touchdown and a point after, and I'd have won $500, and I would have still been probably $1,000 behind. But anyway,
it's all right. You can't win if you don't play.
Yes, right.
Right.
But congratulations to the LA Rams and Matthew Stafford. And I look at Matthew Stafford and and the people of Detroit, because I used to listen to a podcast there, and I'll give a shout out to a bunch of the guys that were on the Detroit cast. I'm not sure if they're still doing podcasts or anything, but they're from Detroit, and I used to listen to their podcast all the time. But they must feel like hell. 12 seasons of having Matthew Stafford, never once did they even sniff the playoffs, and all of a sudden Matthew Stafford comes to the LA Rams, and for some freaking Hollywood reason, Matthew Stafford wins his first Super Bowl along
Well,
with
does that mean it? I mean, that poses the question: was it him or was it them?
or was it live or was it Memorex? I don't know.
Right? No, really. It's like the team makes the quarterback as much as the quarterback makes the team, right?
Well, that's true. Yeah. I say so. But I mean, you know what? To be perfectly honest with you, I've watched Matthew Stafford throughout his whole career. I'm not a Detroit fan, but I've watched a lot of Detroit games. He's had some teams behind him. Unfortunately, they've had some bad management, and they've had some bad seasons with injuries and stuff. And when that happens, you don't win games. And that's just the way it goes. And he went to the LA Rams, and unfortunately they won a Super Bowl. So I mean, I say unfortunately because I'm not really a Ram fan, I'm a Niner fan. So we've got a pretty good rivalry going on, and that's how that goes. So, but anyway, so yeah, like I said, I was 7 points from $500. Me and Dougie were having a great time watching the Super Bowl from outside. It was a fantastic day outside.
Oh, what a nice day.
My gosh. What a beautiful day. It's probably 80 degrees outside for the first time in this year. And just a beautiful day. We had a great time. What do you think about the halftime show, Doug?
Well, it wasn't my style, but I think it was very well done. I think that artistically it was good. As far as the artists go, I didn't understand most of it, but I tried. I did.
Yeah,
but I understand that's a form of entertainment, and it's legitimate, and it's very well done, and the performers are excellent at their craft.
Yeah.
The big thighed lady was pretty good. I can understand most of what she said, but I don't remember. Nicki Minaj, is that no?
No. Nicki Minaj wasn't on there. No, this was all the
what was her
90s.
name?
These were all
yeah,
the 90s.
yeah. In the 90s, I really didn't listen to radio in the 90s.
Yeah. It was good. I mean, I had a great time listening to it, as far as there was not really a whole bunch of woke stuff going on in the Super Bowl this year, which was fine. I don't think it really went on through the whole season, which was pretty cool. But Mary J. Blige, I love Mary J. Blige. She's just like, she was like my heart thump in the 90s. And
well, you got to realize too, you and I are getting kind of old, unfortunately. We're not.
We weren't into the 90s.
We're not the dollars that are being marketed to so much anymore.
No, not at all. Not at all. When it comes down to Super Bowls,
it's a new generation, and I embrace it. I mean, I think it's great. It's like, just like I didn't like people getting down on rock and roll and heavy metal and all that stuff, even though I'm sure my grandfather thought it was loud noise, and my mother didn't call it music. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, I'm just glad they didn't wheelchair out the Rolling Stones again for the freaking.
Yeah, I agree with that. I saw them. I've got a thorn in my foot about that. I stood in line for like 2 days to get tickets for their first farewell tour.
Right.
Okay. When they came back after that, I was like, really? I stood in line for 2 days in front of a Macy's to get tickets for your friggin' show, and now you're doing it again, you liars.
Well, nonetheless, it was really entertaining. It was really entertaining show and entertaining Super Bowl. I mean, man, you couldn't ask for a better Super Bowl. I mean, both the quarterbacks left it all out on the field.
Yeah.
I think Joe Burrow actually suffered a pretty serious knee injury, because he hobbled off the field, and I think Matthew Stafford did something to his. I mean, it was just like something out of Hollywood. And I told you that before. I'm going like, hey, dude, it's LA. Hollywood's not too far away. Yeah. Guess who's going to win this game?
I thought it was kind of honestly, I thought it was kind of odd that it was such a clean game right up to the end, and then one call really could have made the difference in the game.
It was several calls, I think, and all
Yeah,
of a sudden
but any
Cooper
one of
Kupp,
those,
yeah,
yeah,
Cooper Kupp. I mean, they had Cooper Kupp. They had him contained all freaking game until that last 5 minutes or last 6 minutes of the game, and I'm just going like, I don't know, man. Either the bookies called up and said, "Hey, you know what? The Rams are winning this game. You guys better lie down, or you're not going to get your $1,000,000," or whatever. So I'm a kind of conspiracy theorist guy that way. But
yeah, me too. That's what I always say. Like,
and,
as soon as
and,
the first flag went out, I'm like, up.
uh,
The check from Vegas just cleared.
it's just like, man, when
Sorry.
9/11 happened, who won that Super Bowl? The Patriots won the Super Bowl that year. Coincidence? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, the Patriots were on a roll then, but
So we got an interesting show for you guys tonight. We're going to jump right in. First of all, I want to thank you guys for being here to the Weathered Soul podcast. We really appreciate that you guys show up and listen to this live, or whether you listen to it on Spreaker, wherever you listen to us. We really appreciate you guys being here and watching the podcast or listening to the podcast. I'd just like to go through a couple banners here real quick, because you can join my fan page at www.facebook.com, aka the Weathered Soul. That is the fan page to get all the information on what I do for the podcast, because I got other podcasts on top of that. All the information, all the show notes and stuff that you want to see, you can go to the fan page, places like that. And now Spreaker.com is our home for our audio feed. You can go to Spreaker.com show / the Weathered Soul podcast, or you can find us on your favorite podcatcher, and you can find all the links for today's live podcast underneath the show notes and section in either Facebook, Rumble, or Spreaker. And you can also follow me on Twitter at also known as TWS. There should be an S there, or you can contact me at let's see, Bruce the Weathered Soul at gmail.com. And that's where we're at today. So Dougie, we're going to talk about the pandemic again. Aren't you happy that?
what pandemic?
The pandemic. I know it's an endemic now. So anyway, no sooner than they start talking about lifting the mask mandates, the Governor Newsom had went back on the 15th. What was it? 2 days ago, that they decided that they were going to lift the mask mandates for all of California. And it's really up to California what they wanted to do, and it's really up to the health departments what they want to do. Santa Clara County has not lifted their mask mandates. I've got a beef with her, but it is what she Sarah Cody, who is the director of the health department here in Santa Clara County, is not going to do that. She said sometime in March that she might be able to let us go. And go ahead.
What's your real problem? Is it the mandate or the mask?
It's the mandate. It has nothing to do with the mask. It's the mandate.
I agree.
It's the mandate. Yeah, it has nothing to do with the mask.
Make that clear.
Yeah, let's make that clear. I have nothing. I have no problem, and me and Dougie have made this clear before.
Doctors don't wear masks in surgery for fun.
We are not we are not anti-vax. We are not anything like that. We're not quacks. We're not anything. We're not even experts. But the fact of the matter is that I have a real problem with mandates. I have a real problem with all those things that happen to do with your freedom of choice on certain things that we get to do. Do we need to be regulated on some things? Yeah, we can discuss that at another time. But there is a time and place for things to be regulated. But as far as a mandate, something like this that keeps going on and on and on, and they keep putting a carrot in front of your face and then pulling it back every time that they say that they're getting close. And then when the governor comes out, and lots of governors, a lot of Democratic governors, a lot of Republican governors are pulling back their COVID restrictions and things and letting their states kind of get back to normal. Is there a risk in that? Yeah, there's absolutely a risk in that. But the bigger risk is the people getting just tired of having their freedoms and liberties taken care, being squashed on. And I know Dougie has said, my liberty, steps sometimes on his liberty. That's just the way that things go. I mean, I truly expect that people conduct themselves in an orderly and peaceful and responsible manner. And that's what I take. I take that.
If they did, that would be great. If they did, that would be great. But
I know we
Once
can beat
again,
that. We can beat that
no,
poor.
you
We
have
can beat that poor.
no liberty to adversely affect my life. None
Yeah,
whatsoever.
but your liberty, your freedoms in the same way to restrict my
Yes.
freedom. So I mean, so we have to come up with a discussion, or we have to come up with a solution that covers both those people. And I think that mandates are the wrong way to go.
Well, no, if there's a safety device, right, or a regulation that protects the public, then it's necessary. Just like um, you decide that you're 3 sails to the wind drunk and you want to drive home. Okay, I believe you should have the liberty to do that. And if you make it, God bless you. And if you don't, it should be the end of you.
Pretty
You
much,
have no
yeah.
more liberties. You have
Pretty
no more. You
much,
gave up
pretty
your
much.
chance to have freedom in
That's
our society because
then
you
we then
abused your liberties.
Then we totally agree. We
Good,
totally
good.
agree on that. So I mean,
We do.
yeah, we understand. We understand each other on that. So I mean, we don't have to beat that poor dead horse to death. But so anyway, no sooner than a couple days ago, probably the 12th or the 11th or the 12th, and let me see what the time. Let me see when this was. February 10th. So February 9th is when Governor Newsom said that he was going to pull back, or he didn't say he was going to pull back. It was always known that February 15th was going to be the day that they were going to lift the mask mandates, that part of the mandate was over. And about on February 10th, Buffy Wick's Democrat of Oakland came up with a couple of other Democratic senators and in California, and they came up with AB 1993, which is the employment and COVID-19 vaccination requirements. And I'm going to read a little bit of it. I'm not going to paraphrase it much, but I'm going to run a little bit into it. It says existing law, the California Fair Employment and Housing Act, FEMA, establishes the Department of Fair Employment and Housing within the business, consumer services, and housing, sets forth its powers and duties relating to the enforcement and the civil rights law with respect to housing and employment. Let me see. Where does it go? Here we go. I just want to get to the meat of it. For purposes of let me see. Hold on. I'm totally missing it here. The gist of this, the paraphrasing of this law says that they're going to put in a vaccine mandate for every single person in California who is employed by, whether you're in a big business, a small business, just a personal business, your solo business, whatever. If you work in the state of California, you are going to get a vaccine. And that is going to the limitations on that vaccine are, number one, that they will give you an exemption for medical exemption, or they'll give you a religious exemption. However, they're going to have this mandate stick until the CDC changes its mind on what they say that their guidelines are for COVID. And it's supported by a couple of senators. They're an assembly people there. It's probably not going to get any traction by the Democrats, but I mean, in the last month or two, a couple of things that have come through the assembly has been, actually, they wanted to get a Medicare for all or universal health care going on in California, and it didn't even get out of committee. So I mean, they couldn't even get enough Democrats in the heavy Democratic assembly to get on board with that. I expect that this is going to do the same, but the problem is that here we go again. We're talking about where California has to step up and be the leader of the nation on some type of mandate or some type of this or some type of that. And I can understand where they're coming from, but what we've known in the last 2 years of what has happened with this vaccine, I don't see why a mandate is appropriate for the situation.
No, once again,
Yeah, go ahead.
it's the mandate.
Yeah,
It's the
it's a
mandate.
It's exactly,
Now
it's a
let's discuss
mandate.
this.
Yeah,
Okay,
yes, go
so the
ahead.
vaccine is there to protect you. The vaccine is there to protect you. If you don't want to protect yourself, don't wear your seatbelt and have a nice ride through the windshield.
Thank you. But
It's your choice. You have the
remember,
right to do that.
yeah, but remember when the vaccines came out, it wasn't
But
about that.
but
It was,
but
yeah,
well, right,
yeah.
right.
Go ahead.
But let's
Yeah,
talk to the real crux of the matter.
right.
The real crux of the matter here is if people get sick, it costs insurance companies money.
That is correct. That is correct.
That's the crux of the thing, in my opinion, my poor ignorant opinion, is that the people who own our government, who are some of the insurance companies, I'm sure, do not want to have to pay out lots of money to hospitals and doctors for people getting sick from COVID. So everybody gets a shot. It
I
makes
got
us money.
I got a feeling my buddy Bobby just chimed in there,
Just
telling
chimed
me
in.
to get my butt back into Texas. So I was in Texas for a very short time. Probably lived in Texas for about 2 years back in the early '80s, and I met Bobby, and Bobby's just a great guy. And I got a couple of good friends and a brother-in-law that live in Texas. I love Texas. I really do. It's a great state. So I pulled down this a little bit. I just want to go through a couple of things here, what they're mandating here. A person is considered vaccinated against COVID-19 for the purposes of this section if the purpose to receive the first dose of a 2-dose COVID-19 vaccine authorized by the United States Food and Drug Administration or the World Health Organization. Blah. The requirement that a person be vaccinated against COVID-19 pursuant to subdivision does not apply to those who are ineligible to receive a COVID-19 due to medical condition, disability, or because of a religious belief. That is paraphrased. The proof of vaccination status will be required pursuant to the section to be obtained in a manner that complies with federal and state privacy laws and shall not be retained by an employer unless the person authorizes for the employer to retain the proof. So in an essence, what that just told me is that they want you to tell them that you got your vaccine, but they don't have to record it. So I mean, I'm trying to figure out what's going on here. I mean,
right, exactly. Yeah,
so many
it's
open
another one of
holes in
those.
it.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say it's another one of those impotent California friggin' laws, like the speed limit.
Exactly. Well, like I said, I don't expect this to get through much through the assembly, just like the universal health care bill that just got squashed out about a couple weeks ago. Because I really think that we're coming up on midterms. We're actually coming up on a state election too. And a lot of these assembly people and senators want to keep their jobs. So I think a lot of people are starting to wake up to the fact that I'm not going to say a bunch of misinformation and misleadings and this and that happened. It did. I mean, let's face it.
Well, let's say there was
Guilty on all sides. Okay,
yeah.
guilty
Well,
on
there's a
all
lot of
sides. Yeah,
prognostication
yeah,
about what could happen.
yeah. Guilty on all
Okay,
sides.
we don't
And
know. We don't
yeah,
have a history. We don't know what will happen. But
right,
this is
right,
what could happen, and it was
right.
always and I don't know if it's completely necessary, but I guess in order to get people to react, it has to be hyped. It has to be exaggerated. Like the worst case scenario is going to happen to you. Not it could go this way or it could go that way. It's always just the worst case. Now, let's not downplay. Okay, a lot of people died from this thing,
Absolutely.
and we still don't know. I mean, you hear a lot of stuff about somebody died in a car crash, but they had COVID, so they recorded it as COVID.
Yeah.
There's a lot of places in this country that have reported 0 deaths from COVID, although they have like 30,000 more deaths than they should have by statistical records, and most of them are things like pneumonia or heart failure, which were all caused by COVID, most likely, right? So
Right.
you got to go both ways. So we
Yeah,
really don't even
like I
know,
said,
but a
we gotta
lot of
go.
people,
Yeah, a lot of people.
So
We
you
will
can't
just we
downplay
will
the fact that it's serious. It's a serious ailment.
yeah. We will
Okay,
agree with that.
but
We'll
but once again, it was doomsday
don't
all over the
freeze.
place.
Don't freeze. Go ahead.
Oh no, I'm not freezing, am I? I'm not freezing, am I? I didn't use all my data, did I?
Yeah. No, I'll agree with you totally with that. But one of the things that I want to reiterate on before you started on your comment is that a lot of politicians hung their hat on the worst case scenarios, and now they're backtracking big time. And they have to backtrack big time because, like I said, elections are coming up, and a lot of things are starting to, I'm never going to
Well,
forget.
you
I'm
can't
never going to forget.
deny you can't deny factual information,
That's
and they
true.
are getting more and more facts, which is changing their outlook.
Yeah. Well,
right?
one of the things,
So
one of the things that got me is that all of a sudden now they said the science is changing, and no more than a year ago they were saying no, the science is solid with this. This is what's happening. I've got plenty of videos and stuff of Walensky and a couple
well,
of other sources in the CDC, the WHO, that said no, this is concrete information and stuff like that. Now they did not express that it wouldn't change, but what they were saying is this was pretty solid at that time, what they were talking about. Now they're talking about a
with the
full
information
reversal of
that
the
they had
changing.
at that
Yeah,
time. I
yeah.
mean, they weren't making stuff up.
No,
They were presenting statistics. And there's one thing that you learn in a statistics course is given enough numbers, you can make anything look like anything. Seriously.
We know
Statistics are amazing.
We know that.
So don't believe all the graphs and charts. Which brings me up to something like the crime rate stuff. All right, there was a graph that I saw that showed crime rate, whatever, 2018, 2019, 20, 21, 22, 22. Okay, and it looked like there's 6 times more crime in 22 than in 21. But really, if you zoom in it, this is like 95,000 cases, and this is like 96,000 cases. So don't believe everything you see. Look at the numbers
on how much the graph is parsed.
It's zoomed in.
Up.
Exactly. Yeah.
Zoom into the graph.
Yeah.
So anyway, today, Smarter California came out with a Fox 11 digital team published February 17, 2022 at 2:47 p.m. today that Smarter California announces a plan to deal with COVID for the long haul. Los Angeles, California. The state of California has unveiled how it plans to deal with COVID-19 for the long haul. State leaders announced today that what they called the Smarter Plan Thursday, which we hope will be able to stage and mitigate the risk of future services of the virus that becomes an endemic. The Smarter Plan is the next phase of the state's response to COVID-19, moving beyond the pandemic and more into an endemic stage in which residents will learn how to coexist with the virus. The plan continues to emphasize the importance of vaccinations and testing, along with continued education about the virus, communication with residents about conditions as they change, and vigilance for a new variant that could potentially emerge and lead to new surges. The Smarter Plan is the next phase of the state's response to COVID-19, moving beyond the pandemic and more into the endemic stage in which residents learn how to coexist with the virus. So we are moving. So I'm going to read one more part of this. We are moving past the crisis phase and into a phase where we will work with and live with the virus and maintain readiness posture to stay on top of the nature of change that is so self-evident with this disease, Newsom stated on Thursday. The Smarter Plan is broken down into 7 key areas: shots, masks, awareness, readiness, testing, education, and RX. So he also says we are gliding into normal. We're not announcing normal. This state says that we're going to have tools available to keep our antennas up. It's going to give us confidence on how to move about without fear any longer, but with the sense that the state that we're going to have everyone's back, giving good information that's clear and allow the residents to do many of the things that maybe they put on hold, which they are just starting to get used to doing with confidence. So that's just kind of going through a little bit of the parsecs of this. So this goes totally against AB 1993. Is that correct? Huh?
Yeah. They left an S off the end.
Yeah.
More shots.
Okay, more shots. Yeah.
More shots. Yeah. Smarters.
But doesn't this? But I mean, really, when you think about it, doesn't this just totally go off the go off the deep end with what they just said with AB 1993? I mean, so they introduced this bill into the California Assembly, and then they come out with this Smarter Plan. So you never know what's going to go on in California.
It's or what I guess Newsom's press was pushing on it is it's going to get the masks off of kids. We're going to get the masks off of kids. I promise. Well, I'll tell you about it in March.
You know what I think about it? Got kids in masks. I think that. The best kids mask is probably duct tape, but I'm being mean, but Dude, anybody who's had little kids knows that they're just petri dishes, man. If you
That's
ain't
what I
had
was
it,
gonna say. The best,
if you ain't,
yeah,
yeah,
the best mask for them is a condom.
yeah, if you ain't had it, you're gonna get it if you got kids. So I mean,
Yeah.
but we're all about fun here. We really don't mean that. We're we don't want to get kicked
No,
off the
seriously,
Rumble.
kids are seeding sacks of virus. It's
They
not their
are sitting
fault.
sex about
We
it
were when we
really
were
is.
kids.
I love going on with that. But anyway, so we're going to move on to our next little sheet of what we got going on here. And so a lot of things have been hyped up about what's been going on with the defund the police and or refunding the police or actually supporting the police now. And this has been going on for a long time. I mean, I think it was even, I don't know if it's even pre-Obama, but I know that it was starting to gain steam during the Obama presidency. It might have even been before that. Really ramped up during Trump, and seems to be since the pandemic has either leveled out or started pulling back with what's been going on in the United States as far as crime rate is concerned. Uh, me and Dougie live in the San Francisco Bay Area. We know, by what we've seen so far, with people, with the shoplifting, with the homelessness, with the rise in the crime rates that are going on around here, which is totally on the citizens of California. We passed a referendum. Was it Proposition 47, which lightened all the sentencings and jail times for small offenders, and it just seemed that it opened up the doors for people just to go in and do what the hell they want to, and I'm as libertarian and free and freaking all that with my social responsibility and things like that. But you know what, I'll have to stay with Doug with this one. It's just like sometimes you've got to put your hand down and you got to go, look, this is what needs to be done. We have to have laws. There's no doubt in my mind that we have to have laws. So you're not going to have a civil society without some type of regulation that says that you can't do this and you can't do that. I mean, no. If we were to go to a complete, like, what do I want to say, lawless society where everybody took care of their own and did their own thing, you're just going to go back to Wild West and people are just going to start shooting people for being liars. Is that correct? I mean,
Yeah.
you see, I mean, one of the best shows I've ever seen, which is kind of almost culturally accurate, was Tombstone, right? You read about Tombstone, you read about the movie that they made with Kurt Russell. They actually said that was a lot like what it was. And I mean, there was a scene where who's that, Creek Johnson or something, came out of the bar and another guy came in and they had a gunfight and bam, Creek Johnson killed a guy in the middle of the street for calling him a liar. I mean, that's what you're looking at, when we're talking about a lawless society, and we're talking about a society without any type of regulations. I mean, there is some place for
But
regulations
I think
and stuff. Go ahead.
I think a lot of the problem with people is the way that our tax dollars are being spent by the police, right? Let's just put it this, priority is to buy an armored car.
Yeah, why don't you tell that
They
story?
can't keep people from running stop signs.
We'll tell that story again because our listeners, some of our listeners have heard that before, but I'd like you to tell us that story again.
Well, which one? I mean,
The one about was it was the Sandhill or
Sandy Hook?
Sandy Hook. Yeah.
Sandy Hook. Well, yeah, I mean that's one example of kind of going overboard. But they had a reason to jerk their knee there. I think 26 people dead. 20 of them kids. But Newtown. I grew up next town over.
Okay.
And we used to go to Newtown on weekends to drive around drinking beer in our cars because there was 4,000 miles of road and one cop on duty. Now Newtown has a tank.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, that's
but
what I don't get.
On the other hand, though, you don't right turn on red in Newtown without coming to a full stop and signaling. Okay? Not like around here. All right? Gilroy want to buy an armored car? Okay, they want to have a SWAT thing like they have down in LA on that TV show, that kind of stuff. But they can't keep people from running stop signs.
Mm, mm.
They can't pave our roads.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
Well,
let's
they
get
can't do a lot
real.
of things. They can't
What
do a
what
lot of
does
things.
what does Chips do for a living? There's
Yeah,
people driving 100 miles an hour down 101 every day, and all they can talk about is how terrible the accidents are.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So this is why people are like, you know what? If you're not going to do your job, I don't want to pay you. And your job is to make my life safe.
Yeah.
Right? Don't tell
Well,
me that you need a tank to do it if you can't keep me from getting sideswiped at a friggin' four-way intersection.
unfortunately, the Supreme Court disagrees with you, Doug. They say that they're not.
That's why I'm not king.
They don't agree with you. They say they don't have to protect you. They're not there to protect you. They're there to protect
Yeah.
them.
That's what I
We
pay
know-
them
and
for.
we
I
know
pay
who
them to
them,
protect me. I
and we
don't
know
pay
who
them to
them.
protect them.
We know who them are.
Yeah.
But I think that some of the even the liberal cities, and we're going to talk about a lady who's actually in tune with her liberal city of San Francisco. We're going to be talking about Michelle Tandler later on, but she's asking the same thing. It's just like, what are we paying? What are we paying? Oh, there's Missy. What are we paying our cops for? I mean, when it really comes down to what we're doing, I think in the city of Gilroy, I think we're a little bit more fiscally responsible, maybe with our police force as they would be like in San Jose or in San Francisco, especially in San Francisco. I mean, when you can't park in San Francisco without having your car broken into, because somebody just wanted whatever was in the back of the seat, and it could have been just as much as an empty paper bag. I mean, they will definitely just
Yeah, you
it's
can have a video camera too, and the
yeah.
police will say, "Yeah, somebody in a hood definitely robbed your car."
Yeah, exactly.
You're not getting
And
anything back. Bye.
you've got places like CVS and Walgreens that are pulling out of the big cities because they're just being looted, because there's
Yeah.
no laws that says that these people are going to suffer any kind of consequences. So now these liberal cities that have taken and adopted this defund the police stance are now turning back and going like, I think that we got to rethink
Yeah,
this.
I think they should. Actually, it should be rephrased. It should be not defund the police. It should be neuter the police, because that's
Neuter the
really what
police.
they want to do. I mean, they don't by defund the police. They don't want to take money away from the police. They want to
Do
make
you,
the police. They want to make the police nannies.
let me ask you a question. Do you think that just because of the internet age, we're seeing more of what we see with the bad cops? With the beatings, with the shootings, with the
Well,
this and that.
remember the black and white TV age. They were all good cops.
Well, yeah, I remember that. But what I'm saying is I'm not saying that mass shootings are higher
I
or
think
lower
that we
now. I'm
are
just saying.
all with video phones and all that stuff. We are seeing more of what has always been going on. Really, I don't think that there's more of it or less of it.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to try to believe to agree with you. I think it's just more prevalent because more people are around seeing what's going on, and if it happens to happen to a race more than others, I mean that is not justified, but I just think it's more prevalent because of the internet age, because of the video phones. Because we've got a I've got a podcasting studio in my hand. I mean, I see that every morning. I put this on my dashboard. I do a freaking podcast on the way to work. I mean, it's easy as that to go out and touch the public and
And
find
you
out
never
what they're
know.
doing.
Someday in the middle of your podcast, you might catch something amazingly exciting,
Or I may get pulled over.
Yeah, no, I mean, really, who knows, right?
Yeah, you never know. I've I passed a lot of things that have just really would open your eyes, and if it,
Whoop, ladder.
yeah, and let me tell you, if it wasn't for getting hit by another car or anything, I would stop a whole bunch of times. In fact, a little funny story I'll just relay with you is that we just had Valentine's Day on Monday, so I'm going to work on Tuesday. I go a little bit early, and I go crossing over this overpass that I go right on my way to work. And on the right-hand side, there's this busted vase with these flowers all over the place, and this little heart that's sticking out of it. I'm going like, something did not go right. Something did not go right that night, And I look at it as a happy Hallmark day. So I mean,
I know
to me,
somebody found an engagement ring, a diamond in a snowbank that way.
too much. But yeah, I mean, I really think that we got to think. There's a couple of show notes down there. One from Newsweek and the other one from the Guardian. One that defends the defund the police, and the other one that supports that they should abolish the defund the police and start getting back to policing the way that it should be, not the way that it is, but the way that it should be. And I think that the cops, the biggest thing with me with cops and the shootings that are going on, and I can understand that under duress, we've had this discussion about guns before. A gun in your hand is a weapon to kill. We have to admit
a machine that's made to kill.
A machine that's made to kill. So when these police officers are trained at their training facility, they are trained to shoot to kill. If you threaten them, no matter whether they see whatever they see and they think that this is a gun pointed at them, whatever, or whether it be a toy gun or whether it be a knife or even this little thumb drive, whatever, if they feel threatened, they're going to shoot you. They're going to shoot your dog if he's barking at you, all that stuff. I mean, that's just the way that they're trained. Do we need to train them a little different? Maybe to go for the knee or go for the hand or whatever, like the fantasy shows that we see on TV, where the cop sometimes shoots him in the leg or shoots him in the hand and gets the gun out of his hand. I don't think that's going to happen. I really don't. The days of Barney Fife and and stuff like that, that's not going to be around. We're not Mayberry RFD. We're America in 2022, and I think that we need I think what we need to do is not defund. We need to support our police, but we need to also look and see what we can do to not even out the playing field either, just to be able to get back to a sense of there's laws. We need to follow some of the laws, even though no matter how ridiculous they are, if you want to change the law, then you go through the correct patterns to correct that law. And until then, you're at the mercy of what the police officer says that you're going to do. The one thing that I do,
nobody wants to live in a police state.
Yeah, nobody wants to live in a police state. That's for sure.
And for anybody who hasn't, California is not one. No matter what you might think. Maybe parts of it are a little overboard, but you try driving through Pennsylvania, New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts, New Jersey. I mean, you're looking over your shoulder.
Brownwood, Texas.
Yeah, you don't dare do. Speed limit is 35. You get a ticket for 36.
Well, we're going to get along to a subject that I've really wanted to talk about for a while. And I painstakingly go out, and I've told Dougie this before. When we first started this podcast, Doug actually, he dared me to try to get liberal voices. And I said, okay, well, I'm going to listen to Don Lemon on CNN one night, and I turned on Don Lemon for it was more, not even a minute. And I went like,
Lemon. Don Lemon.
Lemon. It's Lemon.
No, Lemon.
It's Lemon.
It's Lemon.
I couldn't do it. I just could not do it. But since then, I really, because I get kind of poked into a corner that says, Bruce, you're really conservative. You're this libertarian. You're freaking right conservative, blah, blah, blah. I am not. I'm like a middle of the road type. I'm the most middle of the road type guy that anybody knows. I mean, Doug knows me very well. We've known each other for years and years and years. And Doug's the same way. I mean, a lot of people say,
Bruce, you're almost as right as I am.
I'm always right. But anyway,
almost.
Michelle Tandler is a dyed-in-the-wool progressive Democrat liberal who lives in San Francisco. And I stumbled across her, and you can get her at Michelle Tandler at Twitter. You can get her down in the show notes there. She's a kind of a journalist and stuff. She's a blogger. She's somebody who has a whole lot of people on Twitter following her. She was not on the she was mentioned on the Shane Hazel podcast called Radical, and she is not. She's asking around to see what kind of podcasts that she might want to go on to. We've reached out to her. She's reached back and says she's not ready yet to really go on a podcast, but she doesn't want to really be talking down her city and the citizens of her city, and I can understand that totally. I mean, if she's got a voice, she's got a following that's very, very wide ranging, and I can appreciate that. But I would love to have her on the podcast. Michelle, if you're out there listening and you hear this podcast, please reach out to me. I've got messages out to you. But on December 26th, she came out, and this is what hit me. I mean, nothing has hit me so hard lately as what Michelle Tandler writes in her blogs, and here's one of it. I'm just going to go through some of this. She goes, here's what confuses me about San Francisco. We have the most liberal left-wing government and population in the country, and we have a $13 billion budget, and we have 8,000 people sleeping in the rain this week. Can somebody explain this to me? This is a long thread, but I'm going to go through some of it. What does progressive really stand for exactly? I thought it was about making things more fair, about standing up for the little guy, about human rights, equality, equity, compassion. San Francisco, to me, looks like the least compassionate city on the planet. The slums of Mumbai look cleaner than the streets of downtown San Francisco. And it isn't just the Tenderloin. It's Soma. It's the Mission District. It's Dogpatch. And we have thousands of people wandering around looking like they're on the brink of death. And this is why people use the term zombie. I've been a registered Democrat for 18 years. I grew up in a progressive family and went to a progressive school and have many progressive friends. Yet what I see in San Francisco is if this is what progressive stands for, I want the opposite. The words used here, harm reduction, housing first, criminal justice, social justice, equity, don't align with what I'm seeing at all. Our strategy might as well be called harm increased, housing last, victim injustice, social injustice, unfairness. I'm going to stop right there. I'm going to let Doug take over here and just give me some comments of what he's heard so far.
Well, I don't think San Francisco is as bad as the slums of Mumbai. But it is pretty bad. I used to work in San Francisco, and I went to places where they allowed color film processing. So it's not the ritziest parts of town.
Right.
And I used to comment on having to skip between human feces and used heroin syringes to get to the front door of the place where I was working, and hanging out at lunch and talking to the homeless people on the street. They're in the Mission, and it is a pretty sad situation.
Right. I'm going to go on.
But
go ahead.
What are some of the reasons for the homelessness, and what would be a viable solution?
Well, I don't know.
Should we go communism and give everybody a block house?
Oh no,
and a job.
Me, you know me on that situation. I'm saying
right.
No.
Aren't these
what
people
I did? Here's what I did find out.
Free to choose their path?
Here's what I did find out is that one of the reasons why they're coming to San Francisco is because it's very lucrative for the homeless to come to San Francisco because they've got the most financially stable resources for the homeless, and some of them are getting
It's not just that, but a lot of cities give them free bus tickets to San Francisco.
I tend to come to San Francisco. But one of the I would bring up next week. We'll touch on this again, and I'll bring up the video of the homeless guy who says, "No, I'm staying here." He says, "I get $680 for a staple for living, and then I get another $180 a month for food." And he's just happy as slop, just living on the streets. I mean, and So I mean, there's that
I could have
situation
done
where
that when I
people are
was in
used
my
to.
20s.
Exactly.
Sorry. I could have dug it.
She she continues. She says, "Yesterday I went for a drive in the rain, and this is what's happening in San Francisco right now. I'm sorry to force readers of this thread to bear witness to this, but I think it's important to acknowledging what we're ignoring." And she's just showing all kinds of tents and tarps and stuff where people are underneath the causeways and overpasses and fields and stuff. She goes, "Where's our $13 billion going exactly? How do we only have 3,000 shelter beds when 8,000 are unsheltered in the streets? How is this an American city?" She continues. She goes, I just finished the book, San Francisco. And if you care about San Francisco, if you care about cities, if you care about uh, um, America, give it a read. She says, I'm starting to develop a serious dark view of what progressive politicians in charge of our town. We have absolute power, act like a regime, and talk often about how broken the system is, and are homeless. Are there homeless foot soldiers, mascots, or mercenaries? You have to wonder what the funds that we have as a city, state, and nation is this situation on purpose. We saw San Francisco is capable of when the we saw what San Francisco was capable of when the pandemic hit. We have testing sites up in days, hotels converted into shelters, funding's flowing, yet here we are. She goes, this is nefarious. Another just view from her point of view of what she's seeing out there and what she knows of the leadership in San Francisco and how they act and how they talk the talk. But when it comes down to walking the walk, it's not there. So,
Well, what is the walk? Should we just, like I said, give homeless people houses?
I don't know what the answer is there, Dougie. I truly don't. I mean, as
Why
we're
should, why
going,
should I why should I work my ass off every day if I could get a free house?
I agree. I agree. I agree. But do you want a government free house? I
No.
mean, do you want a government? No, I don't either. I mean,
No, you know why? Because
I
I'd
don't
have
want
no
government.
respect for it,
Yeah.
and it would be a shit pile in no time.
Yeah. I don't want a government house. I don't want government cheese. I don't want a government job. I don't want a government car. I don't want a government phone. I don't want a government anything. If anything, I want the government to leave me alone. But I think what we got to do is we got to look at the fact that for what she is claiming about her city being the focal point and the vocal point, not the focal and the vocal. I mean, of what they say, they're not doing that thing. Okay, even when Newsom was the mayor there, he touted the same things, and the only thing that he ever did was support gay people. I mean, really, I mean that was his legacy as far as I was concerned. Was all about the gay people, and because that was where that's where his votes came from. And the progressive vote came from. So are the progressives really progressive? I mean, are the people there really as progressive as they say that they are? Or are they just lying? Or are they just saying that because they don't want to lose their friend clan? I mean, come on, let's talk about the clique. That's what we're
Well,
talking about.
yes,
Yeah,
yes,
I
definitely.
will.
That's a lot to do with it, isn't it?
Yep, yep, it does. It has a lot to do with the clique. I'll continue. Progressives tend to blame Republicans for almost everything. Yet we are here, not a Republican in sight. And we think that we may be different than most deranged cities on this planet. Nowhere is there such inequality like I've seen on this scale. And she shows one of the city council chambers, which looks like the cathedral. I could show you here on the there it is right there. If you take a look at that, that's a little cathedral. That's the city council chambers in San Francisco. So,
Well,
so
that's part show too, right? That's
yeah.
like, look at us, right?
So here are my questions to progressives. What do you stand for? What do you believe? What are your strengths as a political group, and your weaknesses? Why, after decades of progressive rule in San Francisco, are there 6,000 people in the streets? Why do we have to have the highest overdose rates in the nation? And why do we have the highest property crime rate? And why do we have the fewest children per capita? And that I heard today was that
Can
San
I try
Francisco
answering
has.
some of those?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, one is if you allow the homeless people to accumulate, they will. Most other cities kick them out.
Mm,
They, I mean, for 30 years, Phoenix has been sending homeless people from Phoenix to LA and to San Francisco.
yep.
You give them a $75 bus ticket and say, "See ya." It's nicer there.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
and I'm sure other cities do that. I can say Phoenix because I used to live in Phoenix. I know that they did that. Um, the other thing is too. It's that there's a huge that the inequality is huge because there's a lot of rich people in San Francisco,
Right.
right? And
Right.
unfortunately, they outbalance the scales so much that even anywhere else in the country, somebody who's making a normal living can't afford to rent a parking spot in San Francisco.
Right. 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 That is correct. That is correct. It's a sad
Okay,
situation.
and then overdoses come with that territory,
Hmm. Hmm.
right?
Well,
And then
they
the low um, family size, the small family size rate comes from, once again, rich educated people knowing that um, if I have 12 kids, they're all going to have shitty lives. If I have one kid, it might have a better life. Sorry.
well, I'm going to share. I'm going to share this one more time for Michelle. Michelle Tandler is at Michelle Tandler at Twitter. If you want to keep up with her, I read her every day. I think that she has a wonderful Twitter. I think she's got a wonderful
Yeah,
outlook. I think she's asking the right questions,
absolutely.
and I think progressive, liberal, Republican, conservative all have to be asking these questions. It doesn't matter where you live or where you lean or whatever.
Yeah,
You have to be asking these questions. If you have some of these problems, you have to ask these questions. And
yeah.
it's not just a leadership problem. This is a people problem.
Well, and
This is a click problem. This really is a click problem because I have been in that turnstile of clicks where you know I'm outspoken. That's why I'm not in very many clicks because I'm the guy that's going like he doesn't fit, So I mean,
well, yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
yeah,
And the reason why is because you can see that it's not worth me to sell my soul for this.
exactly,
you know
exactly.
and and Michelle's points are excellent taken, but they're also a product of our society.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, capitalism. Okay,
Hmm.
your boss has to pay you as little as he can, and your landlord has to charge you as much as they can.
Absolutely.
And if the market will bear it, that's what they do. So if they can get away with paying you $15 an hour and your landlord can get away with charging you $3,200 a month, there are some major problems.
There are some major problems going
And
on.
this is something that we can't. I don't think we can correct with regulations because it's not fair. We're not capitalists if we're not going to allow businessmen to make as much profit as possible.
That is correct.
So
I agree with you
that might be
totally.
something to look at.
I think that we just have to look at it as a realistic thing that there's some people that are out there that are homeless that want to get on their feet and they will do anything that it takes to get on their feet, whether
And they usually do.
that means whether being housed in San Francisco and given help, bust somewhere else to where the jobs are or whatever, because it used to be hobos used to go place to place to place, to make sure that they had work and food on their table and blah 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 and this and that. And now we've got a section of society, like you said, that are mentally ill. We need to open up the mental hospitals again, guys. I'm sorry.
That's a whole
I,
other class of homeless
yeah,
people too. Right.
that might hurt some people's feelings, and it might be cruel. But you know what? We need to open those up again, and we need to fund them. If that's what needs to be done, that's what needs to be done. We need to do that. And the criminals out there that keep reoffending and redoing it, then I mean, I'm sorry. I'm not a big prison guy, but I mean, if that's what you're going to do and that's how you want to run your life, then I mean that's what you need to be. You need to be institutionalized,
Yeah.
whether it be in a mental hospital or whether it be in prison. I'm sorry. I mean, there's a lot of my libertarian friends that are out there that would be pounding on their desks right now and saying no, no, no. But yes, it is true. That's what needs to happen. Capitalism needs to take back over in the way that capitalism takes care of itself with free markets and issues like that, and be able to adjust that situation where people can be people and citizens can be citizens, police can be police, and businesses can be businesses. And I think that rounds things up. We're not going to vote ourselves away from this. This is not a voting thing. This is not a leadership issue. This is a problem with the people not being able to see reality for what it is. And then that's my commentary on that.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. So anyway, we're getting close to an hour, but I kept saying that we missed it last week, so we're going to do what we say. And again, guys, if you're sticking around here and you've stuck around this live, we really love the fact that you have stuck here. I mean, I know that there's nobody on the line right now, but everybody else is going to see this video or they're going to hear this podcast, and it's great.
I hope they laugh their asses off.
And I hope they laugh their asses off. But we're going to do what they call sublime headline. It's one of my favorite things that I want to do now with Dougie, where I bring up a headline and then Dougie kind of comments on it, and then we get into the discussion of just a little blurb, a summary of what's been going on with it. I take it from the big three. Yeah. We go to Fox News, I go to CNN, I go to MSNBC, MSLSD, whatever you want to call them, and we read that.
And I have no clue what he's going to show me.
And I get the most ridiculous headlines that I can do right before the show. And here's the one that came in right before the show. We're going to start with Fox News. Here we are. It's called United in Purpose, the U.S. own Freedom Convoy forming to take fight against COVID mandates to Biden's front door. And there it is, a big old picture of a convoy that says end all mandates, Freedom Convoy. That must have been the one in Canada, because ours hasn't started yet. So anyway,
yeah, sorry, you don't get to have protests on my highways. Sorry, keep this shit off my roads. I pay for those roads.
Taking a cue from truckers bordering America's north, a political action committee will partner with truck convoys to protest what deems as an overreaching government COVID-19 restrictions and mandates. The Great American Patriot Project on Wednesday asked volunteers to contribute, join, or support a convoy of truckers slated to travel to Washington, D.C. next month. Routes to the convoys will start in Cleveland, Columbus, Ohio, and Fresno, California, will end March 6th in Washington, and they will be met by a congressional welcome committee to discuss policy changes, organizers said. So we will see what happens there. I thought that I would be able to be on the side of the highway going like, yay! But I'm not
absolutely.
Going to, but I'm not going.
They're doing at least 55 miles an hour and not blocking traffic.
I'm not going to Fresno to do that. Fresno's south of here, probably 90 minutes or something like that.
No. I mean, you do have freedom of speech. You can put banners on the side of your truck and drive down the road, as long as you're not breaking any laws.
Yep, as long as you're not breaking any laws. Believe me. Yeah. CNN says lab studies point to signs of severity in Omicron subvariant. BA2 is a highly mutated compared with the original COVID-causing virus, and new research gives an early look at what scientists are seeing. Dougie. Oh, you want to look at that again, Doug?
There
Some more. I call it fear. I call it fear porn.
Yeah. I have to agree. Now, looking at the, especially the bottom line here. And new research gives an early look at what's to come. It's like, okay, so what does that mean?
We're going back to the scare area where the BA2 virus, the subvariant of the Omicron virus variant, isn't just spreading faster than its distant cousin. It also may cause more serious disease and appears capable of thwarting some of the key weapons we have against COVID-19. New research suggests new lab experiments from Japan show that BA.2 may have features that make it capable of causing serious illness as older variants of COVID-19, including Delta. And like they really didn't write that very well. And like Omicron, it appears largely to escape the immunity created by vaccines, and a booster shot restores protection, making illness after infection about 75% less likely. BA.2 is also resistant to some treatments, including sotrovimab and the monoclonal antibody that's currently being used against Omicron. So there's that.
Yeah, that's called evolution, I think.
It's called evolution. It's called what viruses do, and unfortunately, viruses become less deadly, more infectious, less deadly. More. Repeat
Yeah,
after me.
yeah,
More infectious, less deadly. Thank you.
yeah. But
MSNBC. Here's my
we don't
favorite
want
headline.
everybody to die before they become less deadly.
That's right.
Otherwise, they win.
And here's my favorite one of the day. MSNBC, who cannot keep, and this is the pornographic part of the podcast. They have Donald Trump so lodged down their throat. It's not even funny. So here we are. Trump, Ivanka, and Don Jr. must testify in New York Attorney General probe, judge says, and here's what's next. As for Donald Trump Jr. and Ivanka Trump, and they're tooth and nail to quash subpoenas from the Attorney General Letitia James' office. As news reported just minutes ago, those efforts has failed. A New York judge on Thursday ordered former President Donald Trump and two of his children to answer questions under oath about the Trump Organization business practices in the state Attorney General's civil probe of the company. And in this ruling, the state Supreme Court gave the green light for the three Trumps to be disposed within the next 3 weeks. For those news to the story, it was nearly 3 weeks ago when the New York Attorney General's office first opened an investigation in the Trump Organization. Over the course of 35 months, the examination into Trump's business operations has unfolded methodically, leading to the recent subpoena for the former president and his two adult children. So again, every time I tune into the MSNBC, MSLSD, MSDNC website, they are just giving, they are renting head. Trump rents more headspace in Rachel Maddow's freaking head, and she's still on vacation, and it's incredible. I mean, you can't even go to the website. I've seen them in the last. I go to it every day, maybe 3 days since January 1st have they had a different story than just Trump. It's amazing.
Well,
It's
yeah, that's. I
incredible.
mean, that's their market.
Yeah, I know, it's their market. I mean, it's
That's
for
their whole.
clicks and everything. You've said it
So what
before.
are they going to do? Yeah, I mean, what are they going to do? That's
Fear
all they
porn,
have.
fear
Well,
porn.
it's not just that, but that's all they have. That's what
That's
what
all
people
that's
want to
all they got.
watch. That's
Yeah,
what
I
people
guess
want to
if
watch.
you,
Just like people on Fox want to hear what Fox says, and you know,
and you know what?
CNN has got some good.
They just took a big poll, a big Rasmussen poll on Fox News and all the other medias, and more Democrats and liberals are watching Fox News than any of the other news
Well, I
sites.
got to admit that sometimes I'm intrigued too, but I don't.
I don't watch it at all.
Because I think it's like smoking. Once you start, you can't stop.
So that's our Sublime headlines for the week. And we want to thank you for being here, man. It's been a great show, man. Dougie, you are like the #1 podcast co-host, man, of all time, man. I love you, man. And we just, like I said, we do this show because we want to show you that two people can talk about issues, disagree about issues, agree about issues, debate issues, argue about issues, and still come out the other side smelling like, well, I don't know. We can smell pretty bad sometimes.
Yeah, but still,
Anyway,
the best part of it all is it hardly makes a difference.
but we want to thank you for watching. All the show notes are down at the bottom of your page, whether you're watching us on Rumble, whether you're watching us on Facebook, whether you get it from Spreaker, which is our audio podcast portion. You can get the all the show notes down there. How to contact me, come and give us a 5-star rating on iTunes. We would love to have your input on the podcast. And I also have another podcast called The Morning Drive, Talking to My Dashboard. You can get that on Rumble, and you can also get that on Spreaker. So go there to get that. And hey, like I said, share this show with 3 people, and 2 of them your friends and 1 of them your enemies. And and if you subscribe and do all that other stuff, we will be back next week, and we're going to go back to our old tagline, Dougie. So say goodnight, Dougie.
Good night, Dougie.
For best results, squeeze
Squeeze
from the bottom up.
up. Oh
We'll see
boy.
you guys later.